Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light. We are asking you to pray for two Pennsylvania state troopers who were shot in the line of duty. Investigators say a man killed his neighbor, then ambushed first responders as they arrived. The suspect, armed with a rifle, was shot and killed by police. The troopers are listed in stable condition.
That's the silver lining in the story this morning. It is so important to pray for first responders every day as they protect our lives and our livelihoods. Turning to our headlines, how would you feel if a casino opened up next door and one of the people in your life had a natural affinity for gambling? Would you move, Debra? That's exactly what's happening to people you know very well. The Morning Light panel will talk about living with the casino in your pocket.
And here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. The Tide is a nonprofit reaching all ends of the earth with the gospel. Learn how you can help share what changes Jesus has made in your life. Plus, a cup of coffee can help the Tide continue its mission.
Another coffee shop with a great mission.
That is
exciting.
Right.
Well, we spent quite a bit of time on this program talking about the way online access to hardcore pornography has been an earthquake, causing damage to so many young men. But the smartphone has played a major role in lifting the gates on another highly addictive, equally destructive vice, gambling. The casino in your pocket is a revolution. Don't buy it? Well, a recent survey shows that 45% of men under the age of 30 now report at least one gambling-related problem, from borrowing money they don't have to serious mental health problems.
Yeah, it's right there at your fingertips.
It really
That's
is.
the problem.
Yeah.
Isaac Rose Berman, a poker player and professional gambler, says humans are hardwired to gamble and to take risks. But phone-based gambling is different and far more dangerous. He says in the last few years, limitless gambling has become available to anyone with an internet connection. In the past, it required a trip to the bank and casino. Now it can be done on an app from home or from school at all hours of the day.
And this is, from a gambler who is warning about a particular kind of gambling.
That's right.
Mr. Berman also adds something rather chilling. Young men and boys are at risk of losing their money, their dignity, and their livelihood, all without ever setting foot inside of a casino. No more waiting, no more embarrassment, no accountability. All you need is a smartphone to bet your today and potentially your entire tomorrow. It is time, I think, to have a talk about young men in your life about gambling. But how do we do it? We'll take that question to the Morning Light panel this morning. Alex Kocman, Michelle Keadle-Taylor, and a new panelist, Roman Richichi, who is the Student Ministry Coordinator at New Covenant Fellowship. We are honored to have you here this morning. Roman, you are with young people all the time, and in fact, you're not too old yourself, just out of college, Liberty University. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
When we're talking about this, do you say, Jeff, you're overreaching here, this isn't as big of a problem as you think it is, in fact, I don't see it all that often, or is the hype and the reality, do they match? Is this a problem?
I would agree with you. The hype and the reality do match. We see students and young adults getting more and more addicted. We see ads all over the place about how it's easy to put a dime in and get $100 back. Just by one little drop and you'll be a millionaire. And so we see that
Which is kind of exciting, right? I mean, one click, one movement without you having to go to talk to a bookie. You don't feel dirty.
Yeah.
It's kind of, right?
It's just put your credit card in and you'll get money back. And so doing this with sports, with the casinos, with slot machines, the dopamine effect. You just like it and like it more, you get that reward, and you keep going.
Right. The women that you work with, especially, people that are often in the margins of life, not forgotten, there's often, it seems, adjacent to some of the challenges you're facing, people with chronic gambling issues. Where do you see it manifest, and where do you see it kind of in your orbit? Online gambling?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't run across too many women who have taken part in this. I do know someone pretty well who is a male who had a gambling issue.
And to your point, the numbers do show that where the growth seems to be is particularly in this category of young men when they are the most vulnerable and most want to succeed.
Right. I think that there's a need to, obviously, to make money, but then sometimes it could be that they're not thinking through is this a quick way to make money, Or is this really actually a legitimate way that's going to take me down the straight path?
Okay.
Because if we look at really what is it, like you said, the dopamine effect,
right.
and then what else is it that's causing us, what does it give us when we gamble and we win? Besides the dopamine, what are we feeling? And who are we trusting for our provision?
Well, interesting. You say when we win at gambling, but we know kind of
right.
the house always wins.
Right.
You know, right.
And so it's just an illusion, right? So they tiptoe into it, and if they don't, I've seen, actually, I take it back, I have seen a young woman ages ago who I was traveling with. I saw her get lured into just a simple game on the street in Spain where they used to take the little thing and you'd mix walnuts up and you had to guess. And I saw this really weird thing happen to her because all of a sudden, and she didn't have this issue, but all of a sudden she got drawn into it and kept saying more, more, more. And we had to say, okay, that's enough.
Right.
Because there's something that overtakes, and then I think if someone loses, they want to
shells
win.
on the street, and this is not with the ease of your smartphone. What's inside? What's in the heart that is pulling us towards the promise of an easy fix? Is it? We have so many problems that money could fix that the promise of it just is right there at your fingertips?
I think it's a couple of different factors. I think obviously it's a desire for wealth. Of course, the house always wins. And even in a traditional casino, I mean, the house, you know, in blackjack has like a 1% edge. In some of these online apps, it's 5% of all users ever profit. And 90% of their revenues are actually coming from 3% of the user base that's clinically addicted to these things. So when we think about any kind of addictive behavior, we have to see that underlying all of that is idolatry. It's that this is doing something to satisfy you that is unhealthy, and we should be finding that satisfaction, whatever that benefit is, perceived or real or otherwise, is something that I should be finding my satisfaction in the Lord instead of in these material things that are so chemically addictive.
I can hear the generation gap right now as people are watching, going right down the middle of generations, where you have young people who've grown up never knowing a time without a smartphone, and older people who think about, I had an uncle who used to go to the races, and he had to fill out the racing forms and go to the window and do all this stuff. Don't have to do that anymore. They don't really get what's happening at Thanksgiving or during the football game. Where do you start, Roman, with a conversation between generations about people who know what gambling does and who are so vulnerable and young?
I think you have to meet in the middle. You have to be somewhere where you can relate with them and show them that how easy it is to get it, but also how times have not changed as much as we think. That gambling is still addictive. Gambling is still something that we crave after. But now instead of it you having to travel miles away, it is right here in my pocket. It's right here in your pocket. And showing them that it's as easy as snapping your fingers.
Is there an easy way to have that conversation? Because it's not a normal conversation to have. It's like, hey, well, what are you doing? You know, well, I'm gambling. Oh, interesting. And then do you go straight into a lecture? How do you find young people taking generational advice, like the people in the youth group that you've led here? How do they listen?
They listen by being cared for. They listen by someone getting to their level and saying, I understand. They will not listen to someone pointing a finger. They'll listen to someone sharing a hug. They will rather have coffee with you than hear about your story because they want to be met and they want to be heard.
So this is a little bit different than kind of drive-by relationships that Roman is talking about, right?
Right.
So how do you start these conversations? You've started a lot of hard conversations with people. I just want to get very practical in the last few minutes here about what does a conversation look like with someone you know is on the edge or has a problem?
I love your point because I totally agree with that. I think that too many times we focus on the sin or what we think is the sin. And when we do that, we're missing, in my opinion, we're missing a beautiful opportunity for God to come in and speak to the person. So if we look through God's eyes at the person who has a problem, instead of looking at what they're struggling with, we see the potential in that person and we start speaking to the potential in that person, it calls them up. And then they feel seen, they feel valued, they don't feel judged. They're more open to say, and admit, I've got an issue. I've had people admit then their addictions. And rather than then be all shocked about their addiction, you have a conversation with them. And then you can start to bring in practical tools to help support them because they're the ones driving that. It's not you putting something on them and trying to force change.
Okay. The opposite opinion to that might be, but you don't realize they're about to lose their house, their car. I need to yell at them to knock some sense into them. There's no time for conversation, right?
I get that because I work in crisis situation all the time.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is we don't mean to, but sometimes we feel like we have to save the situation. And sometimes hard things do happen. And when you love someone, it's a very difficult thing to watch them walk down a road that you know is not going to end well. But sometimes we have to, and we have to trust God in this. So if we will focus on Him and ask Him to lead and guide us, then that helps us. And in terms of the whole thing with the gambling addiction and things like that, you asked for a very practical thing.
Yeah.
When you get to the point that you've established relationship and the person is saying, I need help, then what we'll do and what we're doing, we have to do a blackout period from phones.
I see.
Because it's not safe for them. So if you have a gambling issue, it's not safe for you to have your phone. And you might think, oh my God, my whole life's on my phone.
Sure.
But remove social media, remove those apps.
Okay, and then rebuild your life around different things and different values.
Right.
Someone who is a nominal Christian, like the Bible's good stories, good morals, but still is someone in your family. Where do you start in the conversation if you know that some of the symptoms of the heart solution are a gambling addiction or a pornography addiction, and you almost want to start there because you just want them to be a good person, right? But you know the real issue is the gospel. Where do you rank those?
I think the temptation of it has all to do with this desire for greatness. Not just the wealth, not just the payoff, but especially for us as men, we're kind of wired to think life is a game. Show me how I can score, show me where the boundaries are, show me how I can win and achieve. And something like some of these betting opportunities look so appealing because it seems so straightforward. But underneath all of that is a desire to win, a desire to achieve, and that can only be found in, number one, humbling myself before God and realizing that I'm not going to be all that I want and aspire to be. But then secondly, in Christ living a life of purpose, which is going to allow me to actually overcome those temptations as well, but it's going to allow me to achieve other things that are meaningful and significant. And one thing about this online betting thing is it destroys the game. See, it's a facsimile of actual achievement, right? Because you're not focused on game outcomes. You're focused on all of the minutia of what this player did, what that player did. You're missing the forest for the trees. You have to live a life of significance.
So interesting. What I did not hear any of you say was, here's how you fix you. You went so far below the surface and saying this is a heart issue and it's about a relationship with God, ultimately. Thank you. Roman, good to have you here. Hope you come back. Well, how many people do you think you pass by every single day who do not know Jesus? Well, the tide is challenging you to change that. We'll explain just how. Up next, you're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. A Pennsylvania nonprofit's mission is to lead as many people as possible into a relationship with Jesus Christ. The Tide uses Christian media broadcasts in multiple languages all around the world. Joining me is Don Shank, the director of the Tide. Thanks for being with us. So tell us more about the Tide.
The Tide Ministry started locally in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, 79 years ago this month, actually, as a radio program to reach that local community. God grew it over the years, and today we're an international outreach that focuses on sharing the gospel around the world. And our mission statement is to be creatively sharing the good news of Jesus Christ worldwide through media and partnerships. And we have 4 core values or principles that we follow in that. We want to make sure we're presenting the gospel in the languages people were born to speak or they're most comfortable speaking. We want to focus on areas of the world where there's limited access to the gospel. We also want to make sure that we have the structures and procedures in place to connect with the listeners or viewers, to make disciples, plant churches, develop leadership, and then also to provide radios and media players for those who are too poor to have their own, so they can actually access and hear the good news.
So people living in their native land, they're hearing their native language talk about the Bible.
Yes, right. And we do that. How that plays out is that we develop partnerships with groups, church groups, or individual ministries around the world, and we help them to create and utilize a media outreach. So everything from the voice or the personality on that, the discipleship workers, the boots on the ground who are going out to distribute literature, those who are planting churches, those who are providing leadership, all of that is done by people in that country of that culture. And it makes a very culturally relevant presentation of the gospel, and also helps to overcome some of the barriers that foreign missionaries or outside missionaries might face. And so God has grown us to the point where we're currently have active ministry partnerships in 14 different countries, doing outreach in 34 different languages, either radio or TV. But it's not about how many countries or languages, it's about how many people are getting the opportunity to hear about what it's like to have a life-transforming relationship with Jesus Christ.
And while you're doing this globally, here in the U.S., you're also offering a challenge for everyone. Tell us about this.
Exactly. When we felt God directing us overseas, we still have a burden for the people here in the U.S. and the church to grow here. And so we decided to come up with what we're calling the Have You Heard Challenge. And it's simply a challenge that we're issuing to people to say, make a commitment to actively share your faith. To, in a sense, ask at least 10 people within the next year, have you heard about Jesus? And be willing to elevate the spiritual element of our lives in society. You know, society has made us believe falsely that faith should be something internally for each person. But Jesus said, live it openly. Tell others about me. And so that's what we want to do. We're encouraging people. And just take a challenge, make a commitment, and say, I will intentionally share my faith.
That is wonderful. I love that challenge. And people at home may be saying, oh, I don't think I can do that. Why don't you give us some tips on how you can do this?
It's, you know, one of the things that when we initially introduced it is we offered a free t-shirt. Now, because we just had so many people signing up for a free t-shirt, we asked them to register online and actually make a donation. But that t-shirt, wear the t-shirt. It can be a conversation starter. And it doesn't have to be a t-shirt that says, have you heard? If you have something with a verse on it and somebody might see that and ask about it, or you intentionally, you know, might point to that. But also, when you're interacting with people, don't be afraid to talk about your faith. If you meet someone and they're struggling, just as simply as saying, you know what, I find God really helps me through these situations. May I pray for you? And maybe it starts with a prayer rather than initially saying, can I share my testimony? Sometimes it's just a simple, straightforward, when you meet a stranger and you start talking, you're learning about their lives, where they live, where they work, their family. Don't stop short of saying, and you know, where are you in your faith journey? Or what do you believe in? Or do you know Jesus? Just simple, get the conversation started. And then, of course, be prepared. Paul says, be prepared in every situation to share your faith. And so have an idea, and we do offer some resources. So if you want like a simple outline, what are some scriptures you can point to? But you don't want to just go right up and throw scriptures in people's face. You want to share, the best way is to share genuinely what God has done for you. Let people see your faith is real to you and be able to talk about it freely. Yeah. And that will make an impact.
Yeah, certainly. We do need to take a break, but we want to talk about something more coming up, where it's going to involve some coffee. Okay. So coming up next on Morning Light, find out how you can enjoy a cup of joe and at the same time support the tide. Stay with us. We're back in 1 minute. Coffee wakes you up in the morning and also makes a great gift, but a cup of joe is also helping the Tide spread the gospel. Joining me once again is the director of the Tide, Don Shank, along with Emilio Garcia, owner of Abednego Coffee Roasters. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
Don, why don't you tell us about this fundraiser? It starts September 1st.
Yeah, we do multiple fundraisers throughout the year, but one of our big ones is in the fall. We do a coffee and nut sale. And basically, it's having our supporters and churches purchase things that they're going to normally purchase for the holidays anyways, like holiday nuts. And we get them from suppliers, and we're fortunate to have some like Abednego coffee roasters who do that at a discount for us so that we're making something on that. It's a fundraiser.
So Emilio, why did you get involved with this?
Well, first of all, Abednego started in 2008. Jeff Myers, founder, with his wife. And then I came along later selling my coffee from my farm to Abednego Coffee. Later on, he teach me how to roast, and then I start roasting, and then Jeff let me run the Abednego Coffee. And we came along with the tie with the fundraisers, because we do fundraisers with churches. So, and that fit pretty good for their purpose.
So tell us a little bit about your coffee that you have. You have a number of different kinds of coffee, and I see it says the Tide right here.
Yeah, that is made for the fundraise, the Tide. And the coffee, like breakfast blend, is blend with Central America and African coffee. And then we have single origins like Honduras, Colombia, Ethiopia.
Yeah. Tell us about the name. Where did the name come from?
Abednego, it's a part of the Bible. Jeff, when he created the Abednego coffee, did it. Look in the book of Daniel in chapter 3. That's where it talk about Abednego. And it's more about how have the faith, It's too many challenge, but always have the faith in what you do and what you do for others.
And how do your customers react to this?
Oh, yeah, they're good, because our main customers are the church, a Christian community. So yeah, they love it, and not just the name, they love the coffee.
And Don, why are fundraisers like this so important, and how does it really help the Tide?
They are very important in helping to supplement the donations that come in. Obviously, the greater part of our budget is met by individual donations, but these help to that. But above that, they also help to raise awareness and increase the number of people who hear about the Tide ministry and then engage with us. And just imagine, having your cup of coffee, and as you're sipping that coffee, thinking that because I'm having this coffee, somebody in another part of the world might be hearing about Jesus. And that's going to prompt you to pray. So it's a benefit beyond just the funds that are raised in, but the whole impact and effect on the ministry.
Sure, it's reaching people all over the world and making a difference.
Right.
And Emilio, how do you hope to really share the gospel by being involved with something like this?
Well, one of the main things is to help, the Tide and the fundraise. I feel like we, as a roaster, we be a little bit part of the purpose, what the Tide is doing.
So what is your main message that you want to send to our viewers today?
Well, for me is, drink good coffee with good purpose. And our slogan in Abednego Coffee is, we fight in poverty with prayers and coffee.
I love that. And you, Don, what is your main message?
My main message is that we as believers are called to share our faith. And whether it's supporting a ministry overseas, whether it's sharing your faith with your neighbors at your workplace, or whether it's participating in a fundraiser that's going to help provide the gospel to somebody, make that the center of your life. The biggest issue and priority in our lives should be our faith and sharing it.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
To learn more about the Tide's challenge, have you heard, or to purchase Abednego coffee, check out thetide.org. Stay with us. We're back right after the break.
I will cover the earth with a great flood.
A flood?
Noah, you must build an ark.
Welcome back. Coming up Monday on Morning Light, we will air a 30-minute special that takes you inside Sight and Sound theaters in Lancaster County. We will talk with the founder's daughter and grandson about why they have produced biblical stories live on stage for nearly 50 years and learn how a single slide projector has grown into 2 live theater locations, an online streaming platform, and a feature film studio reaching audiences all around the world. And that's a look at what's coming up Monday on Morning Light. We hope you all will join us on Monday. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts, and have a wonderful weekend.
You have a great weekend, Debra. Well, 51 years ago today, August 8th, 1974, the President of the United States announced the end of a tortured personal and public drama. Richard M. Nixon resigned, the first and only president to do so.
In all the decisions I have made in my public life, I have always tried to do what was best for the nation.
Of course, the following day, the world's most powerful man would leave the White House in shame. 2,600 years before Mr. Nixon, the all-powerful King Nebuchadnezzar, ruler of one of the ancient world's greatest superpowers, was stripped of his senses, forced by God to eat grass like an animal. You remember that biblical story? Both Nixon and Nebuchadnezzar were felled by the same axe: pride. Both believed great deeds would somehow overshadow arrogance, maybe escape their consequences, but you and I don't write the rules. Pride always comes before the fall. The only path to true greatness is humility. We should never forget today's tragic milestone. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Kocman. Thanks for spending the week with us. Now, go check on your neighbors, and then we'll meet back here next week.